Good morning. Just you, me, and the mosquitoes. So we're out here again, and I still have questions. However, this time around, I have a notebook. That'll help keep things a little more focused than they tend to get. Today I want to talk about mortgages. Let's assume that the folks that want to separate get their wish. And Alberta is going to be on its way to being its own independent entity, at least as long as it takes for the U.S. to invite themselves in. 64% of residences in Alberta in 2021 had mortgages. Now, according to CMHC. CMHC also states, while they don't give provincial averages, 20% of mortgages have CMHC insurance, meaning that the person doing the purchasing had less than 20% to put down and therefore had to have some form of insurance. Now, I don't know, I understand there are other mortgage insurance providers, and I don't know what those numbers are. I only have access to the CMHC. Okay. So, we're going to separate. You got a house. You got a mortgage. What's going to happen? Because there's a bunch of things that are going to happen all at once. One is banks don't issue mortgages for foreign countries because it's very difficult, should you get into the position where you have to repossess, to enforce that. So that doesn't happen. And if we separate your Scotiabank, your CIBC, your HSC, all of them, Bank of Montreal, they're all Canadian entities. The only bank in Alberta that is Albertan is Alberta Treasury Branch. And then you're breaking down into the credit unions, so like Service Credit Union, whatnot. So the minute we separate, the federal rules no longer apply, which means there is no CMHC mortgage insurance. That's a federal entity. You might be able to get private, I don't know. But all of a sudden, what happens to you next time you're up for renewal? And I'm not even going to guarantee that we get to renewal. Renewal issues will actually come before separation, right before. Now, these banks could possibly spin up wholly owned subsidiaries, separate companies that operate in Alberta. There's 3 or 4 of them actually have wholly owned subsidiaries operate in the United States. But are they going to? You can't force them to. That's going to be up to them. And again, you have a population here of 4 million, 5 million, somewhere around there. I'll have to look that up today. Are they going to do that? And if they don't, what's left? And this is without getting into the housing damage that's going to occur when a whole bunch of people who want to remain Canadian after an effective separation vote decide that they're going to remain Canadian and they're going to pack up and go. Because they all have places they're living. They're not all renting. Whatever they're living in goes on the market. A market where you can no longer get mortgage insurance. A market that suddenly gets flooded with available housing, driving down the pricing. All of a sudden, mortgages are not a good financial deal for banks in Alberta. They're a private business. These separation folks are all about the removal of government and advancement of private interest. If you run a bank, selling mortgages in Alberta doesn't make money. Nobody can force you to do it. All right. CMHC is a federal entity. The government didn't build it out of the goodness of their hearts. It is there to encourage banks to give mortgages to people who want to buy houses. So if I had a big 20, 25-year mortgage, I'm not so sure I'd be all that excited right now. I'm lucky. I paid my house off. My biggest fear is that the mass exodus will ruin the investment I have in the house. Now, I don't have a fancy house. It's not an expensive house. But it is a significant part of my retirement plans. One way or the other. I'm either going to live in it or I'm going to use the value of it to get a smaller place. Separations pretty much put a pin in that for now. I think about that a lot. I think about that an awful lot. Beyond mortgages, just banking in general. Unless you belong to ATB or you do business with ATB, if you're dealing with any of the other major banks, separation becomes an issue. Sure, they might open up a subsidiary. You might get to keep doing banking. And there are certain places in the US where you can find access to your Canadian bank. But there's a whole host of fees and impacts that come along with this extra national trade, right? When you're in another country, you pay to access that bank. Picture doing that every week for the rest of your life, or having to swap banks and move everything. It's chaos that nobody talks about, and I'm not sure most people even think about. Just that one little thing, and there's a whole list of one little things we're going to get to. But that's mortgages in a nutshell. If I had one, separation is not on my list of things to do. Anyway, you can see it's kind of nice out. Y'all have a nice day. Take care now.